Hello, people of the internet. Welcome to another episode of the Shuwatch podcast. I am your host, Andres Perez, aka Kaiju Noir, and here with me today is actually a returning guest from a while back. You may have remembered when I was actually interviewing a Mr. Christopher Martinez and Jonathan Clode on their recent metafictional take on the kaiju genre with Night of the Fire Beast. Well, a significant amount of time has passed, so I would like to welcome back to the show the man himself, the artist, the writer, the mastermind, Mr. Christopher Martinez.
Nice to be back. Actually, you know what? It's my third time now.
Right, because you were actually on the second episode I had with James Biggie.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like, now you've probably become like possibly my second most occurring guest on the show, or the guest on maybe the YouTube channel outside of Next in Shoma.
Oh, really? Who's the most?
In Shoma himself, yeah. He's the guy who he is the colorist behind a lot of the art I would feature on the channel.
Right. No, he's often a co-host though, so would he count as a recurring guest?
It's kind of maybe like a guest like on the channel per se. Although yeah, you're right. He is mostly a co-host when it comes to the like the reviews collaborations that he and I would make. But in terms of like co-hosting, usually that's been saved for like any of my friends from the Sons of Sarazawa podcast, be it like David, Dylan, or Adam back when he used to be on the show.
Right.
Yeah. But in terms of like actually being a guest who wasn't like who didn't fill the role of a traditional co-host, it would usually be like in Shoma, in this case you, or even like Jacob Baker in some cases.
Right.
Yeah, so I guess I kind of had like, I'm very grateful to have like over the years just developed this little like small circle of friends, a revolving door of friends I can count on to make new videos with.
When you have nothing else
to do in my sad life.
Except for Biggie, because you can never get a hold of him.
Exactly. You can't get a hold on that guy. Oh boy. But he's probably busy, you know, like we mentioned in one conversation. He's probably too busy raking in that Biggie dough.
Yep. Working on covers.
Yep, working on covers, working on fucking Transformers or G.I. Joe or some other popular stuff.
Yeah, he's been doing a lot lately, and it's really awesome to see his covers taking off.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, you know, after seeing like the kind of work he's been doing, it's like I don't blame him for not wanting to associate himself with us mere mortals.
I hope he's still going to do the cover for the third book.
Oh, yeah. So speaking of the book, actually, speaking of the book, in the time since your last appearance on this channel, or rather, actually, no, you actually were, besides these 3 episodes of Shuwatch, you were actually, you played a big part in making the this year's G-Fest livestream possible with, because it was like me, Bill, Dylan, Kyle, you and your wife. We were all just like recording in your backyard, just like chilling out and just shooting the shit with each other.
Yeah, and you guys like drank half of a giant bottle of vodka.
Yeah, I mean it's
you can tell them we still have the rest of it, and we're saving it for next G-Fest.
Oh, nice. We'll just down the second half of it.
Yeah, because it's gonna sit there until someone else drinks it.
All right. So that the vodka is usually like there for display.
Yeah, well, you know, whenever we have people over, they bring stuff, and we can't drink that much lately, so It just stays. It's alcohol, so it'll be fine.
Right. Okay. So let's see. So besides that, in the time since your last appearance, at least on the Shuwatch podcast, you were getting ready to put out the first book, and since then, now we've had a sequel to Night of the Fire Beast, that being Fire Beast Doragon X Garan, the horror from space. So, unlike the first book, I mean, where you were in charge of the kind of like the general direction of the story, as well as like in charge of mainly of the art. Here, Doragon X Garan, or DXG, was pretty much like all your creation. Am I right?
Yes. John was not with me on that one mainly because he was, excuse me, he was working on other projects, but it was a straight up 70s influenced movie style book, and I had that particular story in my head for a while, and since John was not as immersed in the stuff as I was, I just went ahead and did that myself.
Yeah, because like the first book itself had like more of a bit of that like old school horror feel, didn't it?
Yeah, that was the American 50s kind of Harryhausen horror-ish feel, which is fantastic. At like a little bit of Gorgo and the English horror Hammer style.
Right.
And because it's a metafictional series, as you know, with the same monster character in different stages of his cinematic history. Second one involved the Doragon character then owned by a Japanese studio, so it was one of the 1970s tokusatsu style books, or movies in this case. So, yeah, I just handled it all myself, and it was simple enough that still being a novice writer, I could pull that off.
Right. Yeah, I always thought that, like, looking at the book itself, it looked like, because of its very simplistic nature, that it was able to play to your strengths as a newcomer to writing. And so, what was it like creating your own comic in comparison to doing a collaboration with the first book? Like, what were like kind of like the challenges, or what were the things that kind of made it easier or harder?
There was nothing easier about it, except for like maybe the fact that I didn't have to wait on a script or anything, or there was no going back and forth with stuff, like you would in a collaboration. But for the most part, like having to do everything, because I wrote, penciled, inked, lettered, colored, and I had a buddy of mine helping me out with some color assists, but for the most part, like I did everything in the book. And I believe John Clode wrote like the
last page?
Not even the last page, the little soliloquy that the commander does.
Yeah.
The moral part. He wrote that because we thought it would be fun.
Right. And the one character who was kind of like an homage to Captain Moromatsu from Ultraman, I believe that was his name.
Yes. No, you're right. He's pretty much talking the whole page. So yeah, Claude wrote that one page.
Because obviously they're the same person.
Yeah.
I mean, both of them don't have hair, so obviously they have to be the same person.
Oh, well, that's just mean, Andres, really.
My apologies to you both. I love and respect the hell out of you both.
It's a good thing neither one of them is listening.
No, both too busy raking in that sweet cash.
Sweet cash. But yeah, like it was overall harder just to kind of focus on getting everything, because like there was always stuff that cropped up that I didn't consider having to work on. And, like I think the biggest challenge of the entire book, other than was the actual scripting, just because I was trying to script it in a way that it would seem like I was doing it on purpose, but it would read like bad dubbing. And I think I pulled it off here and there. But that's a big challenge.
Okay, and how exactly would that bad dubbing thing? Could you go more in depth with what exactly like that? How that dialogue would come off as bad dubbing?
like, for example, when the commander is yelling at the other two science team members, Fuji and Hayano, after they lost Garen and Garen escaped, I tried to break up the word balloons so it would come across as the weird, like, timed, dubbed dialogue. So instead of having all the words in one balloon where it would read as we're speaking, smooth thing, it comes across as though it's being dubbed poorly.
Right. So where it's like the different balloons to make it look like there's awkward pauses.
Yes, exactly.
In order for like the dialogue to fit the mouth movements.
Right.
Okay.
And, according to you, it worked out well.
Yeah. I remember that, like, when you first showed me when you were still developing the book, you showed me the first page. And actually, I think I can actually walk over and get the book for an example, a direct example. Let's see. I believe it was the first page where someone's like, "Did you see that flying rock go by?" Oh, yes, it was right here. There were like, you put 4 balloons in the third panel of the first page, where it's like, "Did you see that flying rock go by? I think it was a meteor." "A meteor? Up there? You're crazy, you old fool." Or that really sounded like like what you would legitimately hear in an AIP dub of that film.
Oh man, now you have to do an audiobook version of this.
That would sound pretty sweet. It's like DXG, the audio drama.
Oh yeah, if Kodoja can do it, we can do it.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean, I can easily do that. "I'm sorry, Yuki. This mission is too dangerous. You should remain here. You may tend to your science experiments."
But yeah, like, I think to someone who's not a fan of that genre,
right,
they read it the right way. But obviously, it's focused at a very, very small niche. And like, from what I've seen, everyone who's read it, who's in that group, had thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, so, I remember that's pretty much exactly what even Dylan, our friend Dylan, when he was reading the book at G-Fest, he was just laughing the whole time he was reading it, just saying, "Wow, this does feel like a badly dubbed book, a badly dubbed movie."
And that's awesome, because like, the entire time I was doing the book, I have no idea if it's actually going to work or not. So, like, to actually hear people laughing about it because they got it is awesome. Yeah,
totally. I did have another question related to creating the DXG. What it was, when it came to actually making since you were the only one who was making it, did you actually make a script first and then go ahead to making the comic based on your script? Or were you kind of doing it like you were just making it up as you were going along?
Yeah, I should have made a script. I should have taken the time and scripted the entire thing out very thoroughly and gone over it several times to make sure it was perfect. And I actually didn't. I kind of just wrote it as I was drawing it.
In a way, do you think that this may have helped the kind of rushed production of the rushed dub job feel of the book?
I'm going to go and say yes.
You could just say yes, that was the whole plan.
It was completely intentional to help the feel of the finished product.
That's the spirit.
Right. The reality is that since I work a full-time job, I have like very limited time in which to do the comic work. I kind of had to make the most of what time I had, and I had literally had this entire story mapped out in my head for at least a year beforehand. So it was just a matter of like figuring out what images to put down and, the actual script and everything as I was going.
I see. And let's see. Another thing I wanted to ask was, so I think back in the I think, yeah, back in your first appearance on the Shuwatch podcast, you mentioned how you originally had a plan to have to create the book simply like based on the art and then send it to Biggie and then Biggie to have actually work on cover the writing aspects and trying to replicate the feel of trying to make a movie with trying to like dub over a movie without knowing what the original dialogue was supposed to be. Whatever happened to that original concept for that original approach for the second book?
We just didn't have the time to do it that way because I was moving so quickly with the actual book. I just had to get everything done at the same time.
So it's like, okay, so instead of like finishing up the art and then sending it to the writer, it's just finishing the art and the writing all at the same time to be finished by G-Fest.
Yeah, basically I tried to get the art and the script and lettering done like all in an evening or two for each page, and then that would leave the coloring, which the coloring being fairly simple, like flat colors, didn't take that long.
Right.
You know, even that, like even though the coloring was simple, though, it was a challenge because I used a 1960s Marvel Comics color guide.
Right.
Simulate the 60s comic look, and the colors were so limited. On one hand, it was simpler because I didn't have that much to work with, but on the other hand, because I didn't have that much to work with, like trying to figure out, you know, different color schemes for different, you know, even skin tones was almost impossible at times.
And I noticed, like earlier in the comics production, you were sharing some images on Facebook that you were at first you were thinking of going for like an old yellow, like colored old film, very old weathered film look filter to the book.
Yeah, which was kind of similar to the original book, and I instead went for like kind of straight, flat, bright colors.
Right.
Yep. I think also simulate the kind of kids style tokusatsu from the 70s.
Yeah. So in a way, it's kind of like combining both like an old school comic book look and with an old school film look.
Yes.
So yeah, so like both of the mediums are both retro in this case.
Everything's retro that I do, I think.
Yeah, it's probably the most retro book I've ever come across.
If I had the time to actually simulate an old comic book paper look, I would have done that, but we didn't have the time for that either, unfortunately.
And, okay. And let's see. So, what has been the reception like? Or rather, is there anything you would like to share with us in terms of like, in terms of how you were making the book?
How I was making the book?
Yeah, is there anything you would like to share about like any sort of tidbits of information that you would like to share with us that happened during the process of making your book?
Nothing so much happened, but I hadn't realized how big a challenge it was going to be to draw an entire comic book of realistic and not stereotypical Japanese people, where everybody looks different and realistic, but not, you know, cartoony or stereotypical or even racist in some cases.
Okay.
It's a really, really subtle thing to do, and it was a tremendous amount of work to do everything and still, you know, not come across the wrong way.
In that case, I did want to ask, were there any sort of actors or actresses or any people in particular that were the inspirations behind some of the human character designs?
Not specifically at that point. I think, like, Hayano was sort of loosely based on... crap, I just lost points for not remembering Ultraman's name.
Bin Furuya?
Yeah, his character.
Shin Hayata.
Yeah.
Okay, the human host, not the actor who was in the Ultraman suit.
Right.
Oh, yeah, Shin Hayata, yeah.
Yeah, so kind of loosely based on that, just because, like, in the future there's going to be more stuff based around that character. Like, I think he'll eventually become the pilot of the giant robot in the Doragon universe.
Cool. And I guess when it came to the original monster himself, Garan, or what was your pronunciation of his name?
I pretty much say it different every time.
Okay.
Usually Garen.
Garen. Okay, kind of like how some people say Varen.
Yeah. Although I think technically, if you were pronouncing it in Japanese, it would be Garan.
Yeah, right. Or actually, like, I think, yeah, with katakana spelling, yeah, it would be ga-ra-n. Like, luckily, like, n is one of those very few Japanese syllables that does not have to end in a vowel.
Yes.
Yeah, garan. So that's kind of how I chose to pronounce it, simply because, like, just trying to, I don't know, maybe just learning too much Japanese while living in Japan is kind of, like, fucked with my pronunciations. Or maybe corrected my pronunciations, who knows?
Oh, you might come back a totally different language speaker.
Probably.
But yeah, I think originally it was more like Baron because the name wasn't taken from Baron, but a lot of elements from the idea of the book were taken from Baron, which was, if you read the backstory, originally the film was like over 90 minutes long, but this American edit was like they cut out over 30 minutes, and like the majority of the final fight scene was cut. So, and that, obviously references the American version of Baron.
Right. It was like cut down to like barely feature length.
Yeah, I don't think it was even feature length because it was like 63 minutes.
Right. Yeah, it was barely over an hour long.
And that was like a long hour because it took me a long time to be able to get through that.
I haven't even bothered. I have the American version saved on my external hard drive, but I have yet to even touch it. I know Bill. I know for whatever reason Bill bought a bootleg at this year's G-Fest of the U.S. version, and he was like, "Oh God, I can't finish this."
I saw it on Amazon Prime because it's there, and I don't know. I'll have to ask him because one of the first things I noticed is because they have all the scenes with the American character added in, but whenever he has to interact with any of the Japanese characters or military, they actually have a character, like an actor who is playing one of the military commanders with him, who, whenever he's on the radio, and they're cutting back and forth between the actual Japanese footage of the military and this commander, I believe he's speaking Tagalog because he's Filipino.
Oh no.
He's not speaking Japanese, I believe he's speaking Tagalog, and in some parts he's speaking gibberish.
Oh no! It's like that stereotypical like Asian like speaking that you would see in like an old like 1940s Bugs Bunny cartoon.
Not that bad, but close. And like, maybe because I have a lot of Filipino friends, like I picked up on it right away.
Yeah.
Like, holy cow, this is just
like you all of a sudden you would just hear the person go, "Ay da cow."
Yeah, and it was just bad. Like, at least with Raymond Burr, they attempted to make it look like the same movie, but this was just horrible.
Was like the film stock even different? Where like you would see like, oh wow, so it's like Power Rangers, where whenever you cut to the American footage, everything is like a lot like strangely cleaner, but somehow cheaper.
Yes, and like the story they tried to make was cool. I appreciated that, but it just, you need to watch it. It was just that bad. You have to watch it.
Okay, maybe I'll try to watch it if I can find it with like friends who are into this sort of thing.
If they're your friends, you won't make them watch it.
Okay. Maybe at least like Bill or Dylan or people might like the SOS gang.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
You know
mhm.
how about this? How about this? You guys can come over after G-Fest this next year, and we'll watch it together.
I like that idea. Let's do
We
it.
maybe we could even make that the live stream. It's only an hour, so
Yeah, we can do that. We can make like the first part of it. Like, yeah, we can totally do like next year's G Fest, like a Varun commentary. I love
you
it.
have to prepare for that.
Yeah, like we better keep that vodka nice and handy.
Oh yeah, you're gonna need it.
All right.
James Biggie plays a role in Garen.
Yes, he does. And how did he know that you were going to use his likeness?
Oh yeah, he sent me pictures.
Okay, for the reference. Did he actually wear a lab coat in his
No.
reference? Aw.
No, I added that.
Okay.
Eagle-eyed readers will also notice the use of air quotes stock footage in the book, which I simulated by repeating the same panel in various places. Like, I don't know if you actually noticed, and anytime Commander Ito appears and he's angry, it's the same shot.
I remember that, yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, the book's doing pretty well. Like, the reception's been really good. We're working on getting it out there a little bit more. Some of the stuff, I can't say too much, but Dorgan will be appearing in a major kaiju-based publication starting next year.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's going to help out a lot, getting the word out. And, hopefully by the time the third book comes out, there will be even more buzz for him.
Cool. And, I did have a question with Garan himself. He obviously looks like, with being a multi-headed creature, he's obviously inspired by King Ghidorah, but, like, what other aspects of him what were other inspirations for the character of Garan, and why did you choose to choose this type of monster to face Dordogon?
Well, definitely Ghidorah, like you said. Visually, the other main thing was the giant claw, which is where beak stuff comes from. I wanted this to be, it was kind of the best example out of that series of films. The Ghidorah films, were some of the best examples of that era of Godzilla. So I wanted to kind of use that influence. So it was Dordogon facing his greatest enemy.
So would Garan be his rival foe throughout this franchise?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
definitely. He would be the main foe. And there are several other kaiju in there, but he'd be the big bad guy, like Ghidorah.
Okay, and by any chance, were his like head fins and back fin a callback to Titanosaurus?
A little bit.
Cool. And what made you chose the color blue for him, as well as the light brownish tone you went with Dordogon?
That was more out of necessity because there's not many colors you could go with anymore. Dordogon is kind of the light greenish brown just because you can't go with gray and you can't go with green. And a lot of the main kaiju use those colors, so I didn't want to copy any of that, but you can't go with a lot of different stuff. I tried making him kind of like orangey colors, but then he's like a giant Charmander.
Yeah. So you got to find some like middle ground. Yeah.
And Garen, that color mainly because it was a darker and like a more villainous looking color. A lot of the old Marvel comics, the villains were the darker hues. The purples and stuff like that. So that was basically it. There wasn't any real major plan behind it other than I had to find a color that I could stick with. And I want to say the brown was actually based off of one of my favorite Ultraman kaiju, whose name I also can't remember right
Gomora?
now. Yes.
Ah, cool, yeah.
I was trying to think of it, and I kept thinking Gamora, but that's from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, yeah. The one who was played by Zoe Saldana, I think? Yeah. Saldana. Okay, so, let's see, anything else? How was the collaboration like with Biggie this time around when he was making the cover for this book?
Oh, it was awesome. I basically gave him free reign to do whatever he wanted, and in this case, he actually also did the logos, all the typography on the cover.
Mm-hmm.
Man, dude, it's just awesome to see what he does.
Mm-hmm.
Because, in your head, you have an idea of what you would do for a cover.
Right.
But then when you get it back, then it's totally different, but also, like, way, way better than you thought.
Yeah, totally.
So, yeah, always fun to work with Biggie, and I'm looking forward to seeing his cover for the next one.
Oh, yeah, totally. And in the time since now in the last Shuwatch appearance, you actually did end up finding a publisher for both books, or actually for all three books in this planned trilogy, which was Insane Comics. So how did you came across Insane Comics, and how has your partnership with them been like?
I came across them, I think I saw something on Facebook about Insane Comics, and I looked, and it was actually the last day of their open submissions for concepts.
Mm-hmm.
And John and I had been discussing about doing like a Kickstarter or something to do a larger print run since we had done the original run of black and white cover Night of the Fire Beast.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just about to start working on that when I found Insane Comics, and I sent PDFs of the book to them, and they picked it up immediately. Like, literally, I think hours to go before they closed submissions.
Oh, wow. And what was their reaction like to the book, or at least the concept of the book?
Oh, they thought it was fantastic, and James Munch, who is the publisher, liked it because it's unique, and I don't think there's anything quite exactly like it. So not even in Insane Comics. So he liked that angle, and I don't know if he knew exactly what he was going to do with it, but he thought it was good. So there you go.
Cool. And let's see. And I noticed that you've been to how many conventions have you gone to with you at the Insane Comics booth?
Only a few, because I tend to only do the local ones, and they're branded a lot more. They actually do a lot of conventions, and James and his brother work really, really hard at the conventions. Mm-hmm. And it's been paying off for them a lot in the last year. Mm-hmm. They're reaching out, going farther, going to bigger cons, and they rarely take a break when they're there. They're selling, and promoting. So it's really good, and they provide really good printing and storefronts. But their con stuff is just amazing. Their setup and at the way they work at it.
Cool. And is it a local Chicago-based publishing company?
It's from Rockford, Illinois, is where they're from.
Okay.
So it's an hour north of where I live, and that's just coincidence, actually.
Oh, okay. Did you knew that? Oh, so did you know that they were based in Chicago?
I didn't actually realize until after I sent them the email that they were there.
Mm-hmm. So it did work out for you. in terms of like, helping like you promote your book at cons like in person.
Yep, that, and also like for this past G-Fest when we released Garen, like he had a whole bunch printed and like he had them shipped right to my house. I was able to go and drop off the remainder to him. So, because we're really close to each other, it kind of opens things up a little bit more, whereas otherwise, if I couldn't actually just drive to him, it might make things more difficult.
I see. And let's see. What was my next question going to be? Well, oh yeah. So, what has been some of your most? I do want to go back to the whole reception to your Dorogon comic at this year's G-Fest, or rather, like, well, I guess like G-Fest in particular. What has been like the reception been like, or what have been most people's thoughts towards the book, or some of your most memorable interactions with people who are fans of your work?
I think the best stuff was from this year when people came specifically to get the new book. The people who bought it the year before really enjoyed it and were just waiting for the second one to come out. Yeah, and that's what made me feel really, really good is like people not only bought it the first time, but then they remembered it and they wanted more.
Do you remember most of their faces or any particular faces?
A few, and I don't know any of them personally,
right?
But and actually, that's what makes it even cooler. But just the actual interactions are kind of limited, but just seeing how excited people were to actually get it again is really cool.
Nice. Although I bet you were the part of you kind of dreaded when that one particular asshole YouTuber came over and it's like, oh great, it's this guy again. This guy won't shut the fuck up about Gundam. Hey, Daddy, how are you doing? I got someone you would probably like to talk to.
Well, see, that worked out.
Yeah, it did.
An award, though.
It's what?
As I recall, you were given an award.
Yeah, that is right. I was graciously given the Dory Award, actually, by both you and Biggie, and I proudly display it on my shelf to this very day. And whenever I have company over, they always ask, "What's that award?" At which point, I would show them your book, and they would always be like blown away by your art.
Or just blown away by the fact that somebody actually would do something like that.
I guess so, yeah. Because I guess the idea of just going all out with creating an original award is something not most you won't expect from most people. But you know what, Chris, you and your circle of friends, you are not like most people, and I would say that I am forever thankful to have ever been associated with you guys.
And you.
Thank you very much. It means a lot to me.
As a quick side note, because we were talking about Tiger Mask earlier,
right?
Now, Facebook sponsored ads are like literal tiger masks.
Oh, on what?
Because I was searching for Tiger Mask stuff, now I'm getting ads on Facebook for like masks of tiger heads.
Oh, okay. That is pretty amusing.
Yeah, and creepy.
A little bit. I can imagine that, with realistic masks being there.
Well, just the fact that I was searching on a completely different website, too.
Yeah, that is even more creepy, that like Facebook is kind of spying on your history.
Yeah, well, that's far from the worst history, I suppose.
I guess so. Anyway. Okay, and let's see. So I guess maybe like outside of the Dorogon book, what was this year's G-Fest been like for you?
It was fun. Like, most of the time the Artist Alley people are stuck in Artist Alley. Mm-hmm. So by the time I got down to see anything, like even all the models were gone.
Yeah, I tried to show you where they were, but then like I was disappointed too.
Yeah, and what was it? The only panel I got to go to was the panel I was on.
Yeah. Tell us more about that.
Oh, that was Matt Denian and was it Neil? Neil?
That sounds right.
Let me look.
Okay. But yeah, for those of you who don't know, ladies and gentlemen, Matt Denian, he was the author behind the works of Polar Yeti, what was it, Chimera, Scourge of the Gods, Operation Rock, and probably his most well-known book, Atomic Rex.
Yes. And actually it was Eric Glasgow. Neil was there, but not on the panel. Mm-hmm. And the entire panel was related to the G-Fantas versus Guest Monsters series that Matt and now a couple other people have been writing in G-Fan.
Okay. And what exactly is G-Fantas versus Guest Monsters?
That, well, as you know, maybe other people don't know, G-Fantas is the mascot monster of G-Fan magazine. Mm-hmm. Matt was crafting prose stories wherein G-Fantas interacted or, fought or had some sort of story with creator-owned monsters that it started with his own Atomic Rex and several of his other kaiju, but then he opened it up to other creator-owned, like Doragon and Keith Foster's Kodoja was in it. The whole of different monsters.
Right. I even remember, I think Denny himself, he drew a piece of G-Fantas versus both Kodoja and Atomic Rex.
And we drew that piece, yes.
Oh, sorry, I forgot.
Actually, because Matt asked me to draw it, and then I got Denny in on it.
Okay. So how did that work? How did that collaboration work with two artists?
I had sent him all the reference, and then he did some roughs, and he didn't do like a finished pencil drawing, but he did a fairly far along pencil drawing of that, which I then went in and steamrolled with my inks.
Oh, okay, so I see. Okay, cool. So you were the inker behind all of this? Yeah. Or sorry, go ahead.
Inker / finisher, and that's why, like, if you compare that piece to some of Denny's other stuff, it looks a little different.
Okay, yeah. I haven't seen. I think what Denny showed me was only the pencil sketched version.
Right.
Yeah, and so he probably must have mentioned it to me somewhere that I probably forgot that he was going to send it to you to finish.
Yeah, or he hated my inks. I don't know. At any rate, like I wanted to get him in on that, so he could get some stuff in G-Fan as well, and then maybe something will happen from there.
Yeah. It sounds like a very nice thing to do.
And like there was a Doragon versus G-Fantas, which was typically meta.
Right. Like, sounds very Doragon-esque. Yep.
And all those stories are going to be collected into digital collections pretty soon, I think. So those will be available. Like, one I think is going to be free, and the second one is going to be a donation. Mm-hmm. So you can get all those stories and illustrations collected. And there's news in the G-Fan group and in Matt's Facebook.
Okay. And what was it like collaborating with Matt on the Doragon versus G-Fantas story?
Oh, it was great. Matt's a great guy to work with, and he's super enthusiastic about everything, which is that story that he ended up going with was actually the second one because he wrote a draft first, which he sent to me, and I thought it was great. I sent it to Jonathan Clode, and he's like, that's basically the entire third book that I'm writing right now.
Nice. And
so we kind of had to shut that one down, and that's when Matt came up with the idea to, set the whole thing in a movie production, which I think worked out way better because it totally gets the feel of Doragon, and kind of one of the whole purposes of that series of stories is to help promote original kaiju. So I think for someone who doesn't know what Doragon is, that's kind of a good introduction.
Right. That he's not really a real monster. Rather, he's a fictional character within a metafictional universe.
Right.
Or rather, he's a metafictional character within a more realistic universe.
Right.
Cool. And how did you happen to have how did you come to meet Matt, by the way?
He posted in one of the groups, I think it was the G-Fan group, looking for other kaiju and promoting the G-Fantas Versus series. So I just either messaged or emailed him from there and sent him stuff. And we just went from that point.
Cool. And
it doesn't take much to get to know him.
Right. I think I probably talked to him like maybe one or two times, and already I felt like he and I kind of like made like kind of instantly connected, or rather like I got a good feel of like, yeah, this is a really cool guy that I want to get to know more.
Yeah.
I should really have him on the show next time.
Actually, you should. I'll get in touch with him and let him know.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, that'd be awesome. And that can be really, really cool because I finished he was gracious enough to give me the two of his books for two review copies review copies of two of his books, and I did finish Chimera, which I've been wanting to get into once I'm done with the Kadoja review. Yeah, it's gonna be really interesting to see how I would approach a novel review in terms of like a visual presentation for the video itself, review itself. But yeah, outside of that, how was the panel like, or what exactly was the panel about? Like, I know it was about like kind of promoting the idea or promoting the G-Fantas versus guest monsters, but how did the panel turn out?
Oh, it turned out great. We had a lot more people than I actually thought we would have. And a lot of it was discussing the actual series and, original kaiju, but there were a lot of questions from the audience about creating your own kaiju and, how to go about writing stuff. And I think they had actually done a writing panel earlier in the weekend also.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and like the audience was really into it, as you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looked like it, and it looked like several of them were like aspiring writers who did want to get their foot in the door and trying to, in terms of like finding creative opportunities with their own original characters.
Yes.
All right, cool. And let's see. So I guess the last topic I want to cover was what exactly is in store for the future of Doragon?
Well, Andres, since you asked, the third book is the next one, which is, for new listeners, the original Night of the Fire Beast is a 1950s movie. The second one is a 70s version of Doragon, and the final book is going to be the big budget, modern, Bay-esque reboot of the original Night of the Fire Beast series.
Mm-hmm.
So that book is going to be significantly bigger. I think it's 48 or 50 pages as we speak right now. It will actually not be out at next year's G-Fest. We're aiming for around Christmas, I think, at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of our day jobs, and I have some other art opportunities that I might have to be working on, like paying jobs and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
That eats into the time to the book. For the book, and we want to make sure that it's going to be the best out of the three. So we would rather not try and rush and get it done for G-Fest and just have it done later, but better.
Mm-hmm. Now, because it's going to be longer in length, do you plan to split into two single-issue books, or just have it be one extended issue, extended issue?
it's going to be one full book. We had originally thought of maybe splitting it into two, but it kind of kills the momentum because John is writing it. The entire script reads like a film. Mm-hmm. All the points and all the hits in a film. And, especially because it's supposed to be, a cliche type of film. So, had we split it into two, there would barely be any monsters in the first issue. And that wouldn't be good.
Right. So I'm guessing like this is because it's meant to be like a cliche book. Does it kind of have like your basic hero's journey sort of deal? Like the first act, the call to action, the mentor, the second act, and then the climax and all that stuff.
This one is more like the kind of a different trope where the main character is the granddaughter of one of the younger character from Night of the Fire Beast.
Oh, okay. Peacoat, right?
Who was that?
Was his name Peacoat or given the nickname Peacoat?
Yeah,
Peacoat?
His name was Hudson.
Oh, Hudson, yeah.
And Mac called him Peacoat.
Yeah.
So it's Hudson's granddaughter. Hudson actually is in the book, played by the original actor. Mm-hmm. Now,
nice little reference to Raymond Burr there.
Yes, exactly. And it basically focuses on his granddaughter, who is an oceanographer, and her entire life, he's been telling what she thought were far-fetched stories about monsters and like things that happened to him when he was younger.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so it's that trope of the older guy telling what's going on and nobody believing him until bad happens, and then everyone believes him.
Right.
And come to find out that, the English government actually did believe him and has things in place, for monsters. But Doragon is actually not the only one. There's several, and he is by far not the baddest of them all.
Oh, nice. I can see what kind of inspirations you were going along with this.
Yep.
I can imagine like you have like Ken Watanabe coming out of the shadows saying, "In 1954, we awoken something. We called it Doragon."
Exactly, and because it's a Bay style film, there's going to be a lot of nods to that. Lots of product placements, as many tropes as we can get in.
Maybe like you got somebody who's reading a G-Fan magazine.
What did we have? I think somebody's reading one of John's other books.
I put in a little plug. Maybe someone's on a laptop looking at Kaiju Noir's YouTube videos. Maybe doing a little digital nudge right there. Wink, wink.
Well, nudge. You are in the book, right?
Yeah. I was very surprised, extremely and pleasantly surprised to have learned about that, and considering how well you were able to capture my likeness in that one fan art you made of me in my Halloween shadow costume, I can't wait to see how you would make me look like in your book.
Oh, it's going to be fun. I've seen your death.
Hooray! At least hopefully I get to die in a blaze of glory. Probably not, but I can only hope so.
It's pretty dramatic. So
great. I get to be Bryan Cranston into the film, out of the film.
Yeah. It's bigger than that, actually.
Uh-huh.
So, but at least you're not Glenned out.
Glenned out. What happened to Glenn? He was from the first book, right?
No. Glenn was the dude who just got killed in Walking Dead. Spoiler.
Oh, right. Him. Yeah. I don't follow Walking Dead, so I forgot who that character's name was.
Yep.
Good old Popeye.
And the funny thing was, if anybody hasn't actually watched or knows what happens in that episode of Walking Dead, by the time you release this, then fuck them, because it's been a long-ass time.
Yeah, and everyone has already talked about that death ad nauseum. I mean, I don't really give a damn about The Walking Dead, and even I know what's been going on there.
It was pretty brutal, but, like, if you look at the comic, with the exception of it only being the one character in the comic and there being two in the show, it was almost line for line. Like that was very closely adapted.
Cool.
Yep.
So I guess back to the production of Fire Beast Legacy. So how would you be approaching the art this time around? Considering that you've had two very different styles for the first two books.
It's going to be closer to the style from the first book, but better. These last two books have helped my work improve a lot. Mm-hmm. So, that another reason why we want to take our time is I want to make sure it's going to be, as good as we can possibly get it, and the best out of the three. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's the modern style. There's a little less room for stylization because the look of everything now is like high def and hyper realistic looking. Mm-hmm.
Do you ever think about maybe putting on that aesthetic that most filmmakers have done nowadays, where they try to go for that teal and orange motif?
Oh yeah. It's actually gonna be kind of that desaturated grayish.
Oh, okay. Yeah, kind of like what Godzilla 2014 had a little bit of. Yeah,
that or some of the Transformers movies have had that. Mm-hmm. Pacific Rim had a little bit of that. Mm-hmm. Maybe a little bit more for the book to make it more obvious, but yeah. If people watch the Facebook, they can see things happening already as far as the production of the air quotes film, where originally the book was going to be out at next year's G-Fest, and even on the back of Garen it says summer 2017. Mm-hmm. And in order to kind of work that into the story, and also so we don't feel bad about delaying it, it's actually being worked into the meta story where watching the Facebook, you'll see movie updates on the filming of Fire Beast Legacy, where currently there are issues between the director and the studio about the actual direction of the film.
Yeah.
The film, they're saying it's delaying the film until early fall instead of July now. Mm-hmm. But progressively there will be more and more issues. The director might be fired, things like that, which will delay the production of the film even more.
I wonder where you got that idea from. I mean, it's not like, a certain director left a certain popular property that caused the delay to be pushed back by like 1 year or anything. Nah, nothing like that has happened recently.
Nope, nothing at all.
Nah.
But yeah, so like we were trying to take what could be a negative and actually spin it into the story itself.
Yeah, that sounds pretty genius, actually.
I hope people buy it.
Yeah, so far I think if people have been following this series along, and if they've been following this ride, have been on this ride since the beginning, I'm pretty sure they would get where where you're coming from, both from like the metafictional narrative sense and in terms of the production, real life production wise.
Right. Hope so.
Okay, and let's see, anything else? Okay, so how do you think John will be approaching this? Because now, like at least with the first book, it was meant to be like it was kind of meant to be a bad movie, and whereas with the second book, it was meant to be like a bad American dub / cut of an edited cut of a movie. And here it looks like you're actually going to be going for like for this to be like a good movie that's going to be portrayed in the comics. So how does that affect Jonathan's writing? Besides having to stick with a more like a more familiar plot structure.
I don't think it's affected his writing at all, except that like he's a movie buff as it is. Mm-hmm. So he's just writing it structured more like a film. And if you read the script even the first half of the script, it's paced and structured exactly like you would imagine like a 2 hour and 45-minute, action thriller monster movie would be.
Mm-hmm. I did read a bit of his prologue, and it did felt a lot like what like you would see in past like Godzilla-style reboots.
Yeah, except there's going to be more monsters than, past Godzilla reboots.
Yeah, it looks like it.
He's getting plenty of screen time.
Mm-hmm. And let's see. So I know this is sounds like it's basing a lot of its inspiration off of the 2014 incarnation of Godzilla, or the 2014 adaptation of Godzilla. Now, since Shin Gojira or Shin Godzilla has been released in both Japan and the States, do you think that film will play any sort of inspiration or play any sort of role in the development of the Doragon universe or the development of the real-life comics?
I've actually had an idea for a Neo Doragon that takes place after Fire Beast Legacy.
Okay. And would this be like a continuation of a certain incarnation of Doragon, or would it be like a straight-up reboot?
Oh, that would then be the then Japanese reboot after the success of the American film.
Okay, interesting. And all right. And so besides Neo Doragon, that does remind me of what other plans do you plan to use, or would you like to use with the character after this trilogy ends?
Well, like I said, there's the one kaiju-centric magazine that he's going to be appearing in. Not just him, but like the other characters of his universe, which so have only been really glimpsed in the back of the Garen book.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he's also going to be appearing in a kind of a cameo in a tabletop role-playing game called This Defiant Earth.
Oh, really?
My buddy Mike Hall is a game designer and illustrator and comic book artist, and he's creating a 1950s science fiction movie role-playing game called This Defiant Earth, which you can on Kickstarter and on Facebook. And I'm doing a couple illustrations for that, one of which is a couple giant monsters fighting in a city. So Doragon's going to kind of cameo in that. Unnamed, but you'll know him.
Nice, okay.
And we're still working on possibly having some Gashapon stuff for next year's G-Fest. I want to have... we'll obviously have the first two books, which people can still buy more of if they want. But I want to offer some additional things, maybe some shirts, Gashapon stuff.
Yeah, I would love to have like a little figurine of like Doragon or Garan.
I'm actually trying to learn to sculpt better so I can do maybe an SD style Gashapon.
Oh, that would be amazing.
I'm gonna do my best. A friend of mine molds toys. He makes resin toys, so he's helping me with that. And they'll be extremely limited, but we want to do them in retro style packaging.
Yeah.
They're like ton bags with like 70s style cards.
Yeah, that would be cool. Oh, you know what would be even cool if like maybe somewhere down the line you would make like Gashapon like mini like SD style like cell phone keychains, because I know those are still popular in Japan.
Ooh, yeah, that is not a bad idea.
Like if you were to make a keychain like cell phone keychain thingamabob, I would have that on my phone all the time.
Well then, I'd at least make one just for you.
Thanks, I appreciate that. Okay, and you mentioned before about a robot character that you were thinking of producing.
Oh yeah. He hasn't appeared in anything yet, but he's kind of the Ultraman / Red Baron style character, in which science team member Hayano ends up becoming the pilot of a robot called Giant Prometheus. And nothing's set in stone with him yet, but he could possibly be appearing in that magazine. He might get his own separate book or a story at some point.
Cool. And you plan to have him like as part of like the Showa Dorugan universe?
Oh yeah, totally. He's in there with all the others like Giganto and everybody's favorite Pengoro.
Yeah. And like, maybe, would it be possible like Zone Fighter to have like Dorugan like show up every now and then in this sort of fictionalized TV series?
Oh well, you know that. Of course.
Nice. And
or either that, or he'll show up with like wings or something like slapped on his back and a new name.
Yeah, like recycled suits. Yeah. I love it. Okay, and let's see, anything else? Ooh, you also, speaking of the Dorugan universe, there was one more thing that you and Claude actually worked on recently that kind of ties into Dorugan, right?
Which one was that?
What was it? Gargantus?
Oh yeah, Gargantus. I can't believe I forgot Gargantus. We are doing an ongoing comic strip in Monster! Magazine, which is...
I think you need to shout that name because of the exclamation mark at Monster! Yeah. Magazine.
It's a horror film movie magazine, which is available on Amazon, and it's published now bi-monthly by Tim Paxton. And it's a fantastic kind of digest size magazine that covers every possible kind of horror / monster luchador film that you could want.
Nice. And so I can actually learn more about like Mil Máscaras and Los Momias de Guanajuato.
Yeah, in fact, I think the next issue is actually the luchador movie issue.
Oh, nice. I remember I actually have a few. My dad actually collected a few VHSs of those like luchador movies, like what was it, like Blue Demon versus like the Invaders or something.
Yeah.
Or it was like El Santo versus like the Terroristers, like some like dark black mask or something.
Yep, those were all awesome. And so in that magazine, we are doing what is sort of our version of Aegon the Atomic Monster. And it follows an American reporter who's trying to track down Japanese soldiers after World War II who are still at their post, which is a thing. There are a lot of accounts of Japanese soldiers, even as late as the late 80s, still found on islands, never deserted their post. So this reporter is going to Okinawa to look for soldiers to interview, and stumbles upon an evil scientist trying to create an atomic monster to get revenge for his family being killed in World War II. Which ends up Gargantus.
Very interesting. And so it sounds like it's having a much more of a darker, more horror, revenge-fueled themed story in contrast to what you and Claude have done with Dorugan.
A little bit, but it also has the goofy 50s and 60s, tokusatsu style, like with the goofy American who doesn't know what's going on, and there's a little bit of comedy in there.
Okay.
It is actually connected directly to the Dorugan universe because the evil scientist is Professor Hayano, who is the, what was he? I think the grandfather or uncle of Hayano of the science action team.
Right. So one becomes a force for evil, the other is a force for good.
Yeah, I think we might have to use that line.
I will allow permission for that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so it looks like we've covered enough of this. We've covered quite a number of topics for one episode. So I guess to start wrapping things up, where can people find you and Claude and every one of your collaborators?
Best place to go is www.dorogon.com.
All right, excellent. And let's see. And if we want to follow the updates concerning the Dorogon work, I'm assuming we can follow the Facebook as well?
Yes, the Fire Beast Dorogon Facebook page.
All right, excellent. And
John updates that, so he does stuff, regularly, unlike me.
Cool. And where are there other Dorogon related places where people can find you?
Actually, Dorogon.com links to everything you need.
Okay, so like the Instagram and the T-shirt shop.
Yeah, actually, the shop is not linked yet, just because I want to try and find a better place to print the shirts from, because they're a little expensive. Mm-hmm. But primarily, it will link to Insane Comics, so you can purchase the books.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool, excellent. So, thank you very much, Chris, for being on the show once again, and as always, it's been a huge pleasure being able to talk to you.
Likewise.
Okay, and thank you, dear audience, for listening to another episode of the Shuwatch podcast. Please be sure to check out my previous episode where I interviewed both Declan Burke and Denny Roth on their webcomic, Marshall Star, and be sure to check out my latest video on Rebirth of Mothra, and be on the lookout for future videos, including my next scripted review for Rebirth of Mothra 2. Other than that, also be sure to check out my latest video that I made with Inshoma, that being Batman Return of the Caped Crusaders. So, thank you very much, everybody. I have been Andres Perez, aka Kaiju Noir, and you have been...
Chris Martinez of Dorogon.com.
And until next time, everybody, take care.